Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 28th of October, comes to you from London. And we're seeing a sea of red in energy markets this morning. Gas prices down around 10%, power down around 6%. And the key thing is not the size of these falls, but the fact that we've broken to a new low. So if we look at the chart, we see here the spike in prices that was well known around the world. We saw that, but what's interesting this morning is we've moved to a new low. So this is a complete breakdown. We're already bearish below the cloud, so we shouldn't be surprised to see prices to the downside. Just looking for targets this morning on the 1 minute chart. I've been waiting for these targets. Of course, yesterday we saw this target given on the 21st of October to 198, and that's roughly where we've gone to. So that price target was in there nearly a week ago, and we saw targets coming in yesterday as well. In fact, all this week we've seen these 1 minute targets to the downside and the downtrend. So we shouldn't be at all surprised to see this, and we'll watch the price action throughout the day building to give us new price targets. If you're trading gas, these targets are an absolute must. Well, in fact, if you're trading anything really. We're seeing here this complete breakdown in price, and then of course there are longer term daily and 60-minute targets as well. We'll take a quick look at what's happening in the world first. We see the dollar still holding its strength, looking strong on that medium term chart. This is my weekly, daily and 60-minute chart. We're seeing the euro weaker at below the 116 level, so weaker euro against that stronger dollar. Sterling is also lower against that dollar, only slightly lower, and holding its own against the euro sterling, still trading higher. Bitcoin's back above the $60,000 mark, and we look at markets. In fact, the S&P 500 index ended down 0.5% yesterday, but the futures are suggesting that we will recover some of that ground today. We're seeing the Nasdaq future up slightly. The VIX volatility sitting at 17, just ticking up a little bit, so the fear index just ticking up and climbing again. So market's a little bit fearful. The FTSE future down a third of a percent. The DAX in Germany, the cash market down by about the same amount. Japan was down almost 1%, and China lower at 1.2%, and even the Sensex in India was quite a lot lower at 1.4% lower. So we are seeing Asian markets certainly a lot lower overnight. We'll come back to the energy mix in a minute, but just looking at some of the softs, we've got wheat slightly higher. That's looking ripe for a breakout, which will of course add to inflationary pressures around the globe. Gold is back at that $1,800 mark. Hasn't been able to hold this for a very long time, so it'll be interesting to see whether we can. And US 10-year yields did pull back this week, and we just see that we're back into the 150s. We're in the 160s. 179, 175 is our targets there. And one to watch also is the German Bund. If we move lower than that 167.50 level, that's bad news for the bond market. That would end a 2-decade-long trend. So coming to the energy mix, we start with oil, the big daddy of energy markets, if you like. And we see yesterday we did see that fall off quite sharp there. Bounced this morning though, and we've recovered quite a bit, but we are still down on the day. And we're seeing an end to this uptrend potentially. Downside targets there. This target to 88 not quite met. The 1 to 84 was met on the daily. Remember this daily, 60-minute and 1 minute. Taking a look at nat gas in the US, actually strong here. Our call for nat gas this week was for nat gas to go higher, and we called that when we're about 550 on the price. So this has moved higher, and it is bucking the trend that we're seeing in Europe. Coal was actually the first product to break lower, and we flagged that a couple of days ago on LinkedIn, and that has really led the charge lower. They've still got this downside target at 105. 1013 was met. 114 met, 112 nearly met, and of course the big downside target from this big move down is around $71. It's hard to imagine, but then $200 was also very hard to imagine back in May. So don't ignore these targets. Looking at the emissions, that's held up fairly well this week, given what we're seeing in other markets. We do have some downside targets on the long-term chart and on the medium term, so there is downside pressure. If we make a new low, we activate a target to 54, which would be 6% lower. MBP, as we've mentioned, down 9% this morning. breaking to that new low, and we're looking really to these daily targets quite a lot lower. So this is the beginning of a breakdown in prices. And the normal rule of thumb in technical analysis is that you'll unwind half the move. And that spike, of course, was very dramatic on the daily chart. But if you look at the 60-minute chart, you see that breakdown in prices. And we can see now that was the top. Tops a retrospective, easily seen retrospectively. So we look at TTF. We've got clearer targets here, and this will be the one to watch play out. Watch this on your OTC data as well, of course, where you'll have slightly different targets because you'll have more visibility. But again, this target of 77.80 was given yesterday, and that's where we've gone to. That was given at 85, so that was quite a big move yesterday that's been heralded. We've got further downside here on these targets and a few upside, and this won't necessarily, the shocks happen now. We might see a sideways move for a little while before we break lower, but every time we break below these lows, keep an eye on these targets, because that's where we're heading. Power markets, we see German power down 6%, and actually most other power markets in Europe following. We're seeing French power down, Dutch power down, all really following. No big surprises there. We've got further downside targets here. This 113 target was given on the 19th of October on the 60-minute chart, and that's been met now, so that was quite key. And we had a lot of downside targets. We've got a further lower targets here as well to watch. And the key thing is where we've bounced this morning. If we go lower than that, then we look to the next target. And of course, it's all about breaking lower. And if we take a quick look at Nordic Power, that's down 5%. This has been in the doldrums, and we called this lower to clients this week. So that has been in the doldrums for some time. We're bearish below the cloud, of course. That's it for today. Quite a big day for energy. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.